I know there's some other things you wanted to get to, Tink. We had, you know, I'm mad at you for making me watch this whole thing, but we had the interview with Mike Repole and Pat Cummings the other day on Jonathan Kinchin's show, and it was illuminating after about an hour or so. It was illuminating to finally get some semblance of a direction or a vision for the NTA, and the first issue that they settled on tackling is aftercare, which I think is an extremely noble mission to, because, I think there's nothing more important and more lacking, I would say, in this business in terms of major issues and taking care of the horses than what we do with them after they're done racing. Just a quick thought on that interview and that kind of being the first flag they plant in the ground for the NTA.
Yes, I think we can all agree that aftercare is an extremely important issue, and that it's admirable that Mike, from the beginning, has been championing the issue, and has put up his own money, and is willing to take steps that may not be so easy for others in the industry, other owners in the industry to take. I don't have anything negative to say about that at all. I think it's terrific, and this is another example. People think, well, I've been sparring with Mike Repole online. Yeah, we have been sparring, but I have never been monolithic in my view of Mike Repole. I know he's passionate. I share his passion, and when he first introduced the NTA, I said that I support a lot of his goals. Let's see what happens. I was skeptical of some, but the practicality, but I support a lot of the goals. Anyhow, so it's understandable to me that the aftercare issue is what he emphasized, and I think the reason is that it seems to be the only one on their current agenda that is likely to be potentially solvable, at least in the near term. So I don't blame them for focusing on that for that reason. But of course, it does raise questions about just how practical things like the mare cap and the super trainer issue and other issues, that the wagering issues, how practical some of the solutions that have been floated thus far may be. Right. So that was, I think a big takeaway. Now, the other point that of course is related to my sparring with Mike over the past several weeks is his consistent vilifying of the Jockey Club, and he took this opportunity again to reiterate how much he dislikes the organization. Quote, "I'm against the Jockey Club. We don't need them. It's a club, not an entity. They're irrelevant. They're not part of the future. They're useless. We have to look at them as a non-factor in the future. We know it's not part of the solution, so they're actually part of the problem." Well, setting aside the black and white aspect of that, which seems to be very extreme, and also the dissonance that I've pointed out many times with that kind of approach to a major organization, a powerful organization in the industry, and what he said he wanted to do initially when he introduced the NTA last October, I believe it was. The other oddity that popped up in this particular podcast was that, in stark contrast to the Jockey Club, he talked in glowing terms about the Breeders' Cup. And the reason, as I posted, and thanks to someone who's been corresponding with me privately for raising this issue in my mind, I hadn't seen it myself initially. But the oddity is that of the 14 board members of the Breeders' Cup, 9 of them are also members of the Jockey Club. In fact, Barbara Banke is the Breeders' Cup chairman and is a Jockey Club steward. Anthony Beck, Breeders' Cup vice chairman, Jockey Club member. Bill Farish, Breeders' Cup Board of Directors, Jockey Club steward. et cetera, et cetera. So it makes it even more difficult to easily understand why Mike would be so unhappy with the Jockey Club and is essentially dismissive and yet embrace the Breeders' Cup. Tough to understand.
The other thing I would say, and I do think that going after aftercare is as the first as the first thing to tackle is very smart, because this should be an easy one, and Mike said it very well. I think that if you're not for contributing more to take care of horses after they're done racing, we don't want you in racing. And I don't like black and white declarations like that, but this should be something that everybody in the industry can get behind. And I think that makes sense to start with something that should be such a unifier for people in the business if they care about the horses. The other thing that jumped out to me, and I'll toss it to John, watching that interview, is I honestly think it's ironic if you combined Mike Repole and Pat Cummings, like, you would have the perfect spokesperson for the sport, because I think Pat has a tremendous discipline, a tremendous commitment to facts and messaging. I think that that's something that he's very, very good at. Now, he doesn't have the personality that Mike does. He doesn't jump out when you're listening to him as someone to really rally behind. That Mike does have that gift. Now, Mike, on the other hand, has the weaknesses that Pat doesn't have, which is he's a bit of a loose cannon, hard to keep on like one topic, on message. So at least in that sense, I do think that the NTA has potential, because the two guys running it have significant strengths. And if they could just offset each other's weaknesses, then I think you might have something. Because that really stuck out to me, that like those two guys together, I think would be the perfect spokesperson to rally people in the industry to tackle these hard issues. Go ahead, John.
I think that's a very good point, Joe. It's kind of, to me, it's kind of ironic, because the initial thrust of this organization by Mike was to increase dialogue and talk about problems and how to fix them. And he even reiterated it again on this most recent podcast. But then he pivots away from that message immediately. And, if you are against any of his thoughts, then you're, persona non grata. If you argue with him on Twitter, which is the easiest way to get his attention, you get vilified. And his messages are all over the board, to the point where, like, a couple of days ago, he went out and tweeted that, basically, I'm paraphrasing, but if you're, other than him as the commissioner, if you're over the age of 50, you don't need to bring ideas to the table.
Yeah.
Okay. So, that basically gets rid of his entire brain trust of 7 people who make all the decisions with him, or feed him all the information to make the decisions on who he's buying, who he's breeding to, how he markets. So, again, it's nonsensical as far as, is this well thought out? That part's not well thought out at all. I'm very happy that they're going after aftercare, because it's something that we've championed for years. There's multiple options, I think, to help, establish a fund and help pay for these horses afterwards. He went in and said, I'm not buying a fucking 2-year-old. Okay. He also said that about the yearling sales. So time will tell as to whether or not that's really going to happen. But the other thing that's stuck in my craw, and maybe it's just because it's personal, was like at minute 34, he went on a rant about, name another owner who's as vocal as I am. Name another trainer who talks and makes comments like me, or the media. Nobody else does. And I immediately had like flashbacks of a Trump situation where, I'm the only disruptor in the world. I'm the only one that can do this. And just, if you ask people, they'll tell you, hey, you're doing a great job. They'll say it privately, but and it's like, enough already. You're not the be all and end all. You are a great mouth. You have a great opportunity to say things. But I think there's a few people owners, trainers, and on the media who have kind of knocked the status quo and have kind of said, have said, we need to have a new system, because the way we're going now, it's a race to the bottom, not a way to encourage conversation. So I guess if I was listening to the message, which is, let's all get together and try to hash things out, that's the message I can get behind. If you listen to how off-putting it is and how inconsistent the message is put out there, it's hard to get behind this situation.
Yeah, look, I agree completely. But we're all rooting for him, but his methods have been peculiar at times and difficult to reconcile with the stated goals. I hope if he only is able to really resolve the aftercare issue. And he said to me in a tweet, "We'll do it in 6 months." And he tweeted today or yesterday. And as I said to him, I don't care how long. If you're able to get it done, I will gush praise on you. I'm rooting for him as hard as anyone.
Absolutely.
So just like these other issues that I touched on, try not to fall into I'm speaking to some listeners. Try not to fall into the trap of saying, "Oh, this guy is hates Repole or hates Baffert or loves the Jockey Club or blah blah blah." All of the industry's problems are nuanced, and if you want to talk about them seriously, if you want to help to make progress in resolving these problems, you have to think about it and talk about it in some kind of nuanced fashion. And I hope that we're all able to make some progress in the coming months and years.
For sure. And I think the one thing he said that really stuck with me and resonated with me as I think true and very morally right is, if you're paying $1 million for a horse and you can't sign $2,500 at the ticket, at the auction, at the sale to go towards aftercare, you don't need to be spending $1 million on a horse. I think that's the thing to take home, is that there is a lot of money in this industry. We are not hurting for rich people in horse racing. So the fact that we have so many horses coming off the track that don't have second homes or have a murky future is totally unacceptable. And I think that that's something that we can all agree on.